House. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. So, some people on earth, they just shine no matter what they do. They simply radiate whatever it is that they brought in that's so unique and so special for them. The thing that is that most people do not realize that they too have that ability. And as of today, we start a whole transformation series on the Being Healthy live stream where we highlight people who have decided to live their lives according to that light within and to actually transform their lives. And in doing so, they undo the myths of what mainstream society have told us. I want to bring a quote to you. And this quote is, "And above all, watch with glittering eyes the whole world around you, because the greatest secrets are always hidden in the most unlikely places. Those who don't believe in magic will never find it." And so today, I am actually going to be calling on the magic of one of our co-hosts, and I am going to actually highlight something that she actually wrote, and we're going to be using this as a catalyst for our entire series on transformation. This is from Lisa Chamberlain. Lisa, come on in, and I'm going to ask you to address this after we put this up. Please read it, Lisa. But when you're reading it, Lisa, what I would like
Yes.
to do is, before you read it, to explain exactly how this came to be, please.
So I went through a deep transformational process. I was in a program, a system, as all of us can be, and I found myself slowly but surely, like the onion, peeling back the layers upon layers upon layers. So we have so much conditioning and beliefs, and I now know we have to remember who we truly are underneath the program, underneath the system, underneath the mask. And so I had this incredible connection to my guides that I've been developing over time, and we all have them. And maybe it's, just sitting and giving yourself permission to listen. And sometimes you don't get the answers right away. Sometimes you feel like, am I alone? But if you're patient, if you cultivate that time, you will start to hear the truth, what's underneath, and you start to observe your thought patterns. You start to observe your behavior. You start to observe the people around you, the things you look at, the things you consume. And unfortunately, the world outside of us does not have our best interest at heart. So, there's people that profit off of our self-loathing. There's people that profit, systems that profit, people that profit when we don't nourish our bodies in the right way. And so there is an agenda, a programming. And when you start recognizing the program, when you start realizing you're being hypnotized on some level, you start to unpack who you truly are underneath the noise. And every one of us is born with these just beautiful gifts. Every one of us has capacity to do such amazing things with who they are. We're here for a reason. And so when we remember that, when we really remember that and honor that and show up, even though there are going to be people that you're going to lose potentially because they were in love with a version of you that isn't true now. You may lose people when you choose an eating program, let's say, but they were meant to guide you to where you are now, and you can release them with love. And when you return to love, and when you return to who you truly are, and you love yourself, and you release shame, which is just, I used to fear shame. I used to think, oh my God, it used to paralyze me. And it made me want to turn to something to fix that. And when I recognize that shame is a teacher, shame is, you listen to yourself. What do you need? That's where the real transformation comes in. It's really about love. It's really about awareness. It's really about connection. It's really about purpose. It's really about unlocking our voice.
And each voice is very unique.
100%.
So Lisa, this came out of you very recently, and will become the mainstay for this transformation series. Please, I'm going to play this first, and then after I've played it, please read it.
And I can't see it on my screen. Dorit, would you be willing to read it, if that's okay?
Okay, so eat breadcrumbs. The problem with this is that it actually goes away.
Yeah.
And not only that, but the fire burns it because it is burned.
Oh, there it goes.
And we will.
It's really burning without apology, isn't it?
We will make a different version for the screen so you can see it. Thank you, Lisa, for agreeing to do that. But I want to also show you all the reason why I did this. I have a huge issue with the fact that we are all being subjected to a school system. I have a problem with schooling, as most of you who have been following me for a long time know. It's not that I think that there's anything wrong with schooling, but I think there ought to be different kinds of schooling for different kinds of people, and not being taught just to sit at a desk all day long. And my issue is with sitting down, first of all. And some of you know that there's a green school that I love very much in Bali. It's called the Green School, and it's just thatch roof. And of course, the ground is the natural ground with whatever's growing there. And they're close to a river, to water flowing by. So you have all the elements of which we spoke there. So in this school, children do not sit most of the time. And if they do, it's on the ground. So they're sitting cross-legged, or however it is that they wish to. So here, I would like you all to look at this. And this will explain to you why we're doing this series on transformation, because I'm trying to help us all undo school.
What if I told you that every single day kids go to school, they become less intelligent? The fact is, there is so much more than just one type of intelligence. And while school can make you more academically intelligent, it can teach you physics, algebra, calculus. It is diminishing the children's creative intelligence. It is teaching them to think a certain way, to go down a certain path in life. It is telling them, go to high school, get a diploma. Go to a good college, find a stable job. And if you don't do that, you won't be successful. How did I, a straight C student, start a technology company at the age of 16? It must be something that can't be measured by academic intelligence alone. I still think I'm the only Asian kid in the world that doesn't understand math. And if there's one message I want you to take away from everything I've said, it's this. No one has ever changed the world by doing what the world has told them to do.
Now, we don't only have the capacity to change the outside world, we can change our internal world and ourselves. And so let me introduce you to Carolina, who has done just that. Carolina, you go against what we've been taught. Women cannot have muscles. Women are too weak. Please tell us your entire journey starting in Colombia.
Well, thank you so much for having me here today. This is really exciting. I love health. I love fitness. I love wellness. And I've always been someone that was driven by just being active, regardless of my gender, regardless of what's going on around me. I always felt like movement and physicality and the connection between mind and body was really important to me from a young age. So, growing up in Colombia, I was always in sports. I was always very competitive, but always enjoying more of the process rather than, the end result. And I think that was the key for me to continue on, was falling in love with the journey rather than the destination. I know it sounds very cliche, but in my case, I see it because I've been able to prove it to myself after years and years of doing this, that the best way to stick with a routine, to continue to stay fit and healthy and and not give up on yourself, it's to love the process. Learn to love the process and fall in love with those moments where it's just you and that, that gym or that sport that you like to play or that hike that you're doing, whatever it is that you're doing. Really, really just find a way to embrace that moment, embrace being uncomfortable and sweaty and struggling, while at the same time knowing that you're doing something so good for your body and mind. So,
And Carolina, in what way did you manifest this?
I mean, I think in so many ways. I think just always having to transition, from being born in Colombia to moving to the US at a young age, 14 years old, having to face all the challenges of a new culture, new language, new school, new friends. It was, it always felt like a transitional part of me that was always moving, always evolving. And I think that I was able to sort of like internalize into my own journey, my own fitness journey, to try to figure out what worked for me, what kept me going, and what I could use to be a long-term fitness person. Because I feel like sometimes a lot of people focus a lot on, just like I said, the end result. So it's always like, let me do this quick diet. Let me get this quick 3-month, like super strict workout. And then what happens after those 3 months? A lot of times people fall out of it. A lot of times people gain the weight back. A lot of times people get bored or get too tired and they're not able to maintain it. And I think for me, what I found was that I've been able to do this since I'm 39 years old. And I've been doing this I've been going to the gym since I was 14, and I don't see myself stopping. I mean, I hope my body will allow me to continue on, because I really do love the entire process of just being fit and healthy.
Have you seen Betty Weider and Jack Lane's wife, well into their 80s? You wouldn't know the difference at all. So everyone, I want to show you the progress in the last 10 years that Carolina has made at the gym.
That was about 10 years ago. Yeah.
Comment on this picture, please.
This was actually, I was in Colombia. I'm also an actress, and I was shooting a TV show in my hometown of Colombia. For the first time, I got to work as an actor in my home city, in Barranquilla. And I was very, it's interesting because this photo, you can see how cut and fit I was, but at the same time, I was a little bit underweight, which is not necessarily the healthiest thing. I think I wasn't eating enough calories for how much I was working out. But it's definitely a foundation. I learned a lot during this time, and then I realized that I need to make sure that I fuel my body enough to continue to push forward. Because at this rate that I was at that point, this is back in 2000, this is 2023. And I was really, really thin. Even though I was muscular, I think I was definitely underweight. So it was finding that balance. Every year, it's like I learn something new and I apply it. and I can see the difference, and I can see how consistent I can be with it. And I'm only trying to push myself forward in a healthy way.
Which is exactly why this live stream, this podcast, the book, and the course is called Being Healthy, not Be Healthy, because we always need to adjust.
Yes.
Health is not something we achieve. It's a constant adjustment.
Absolutely.
This focus on this one now. This is my favorite one of you, because this
Yeah.
is the way you are now.
Thank you. I love this because this was kind of the peak of my fitness journey when it came to body, like goals and weight training, and feeling strong, but at the same time still maintaining a healthy weight and being able to build muscle, which a lot of times we are told that in order to have a six pack and to feel fit, you need to drop the weight, and you need to, and funny enough, I realized that sometimes it's not about that. It's about simply meeting yourself in the middle. And I think here I was able to do both. I was able to be really fit and strong and get some definition, while at the same time eating enough calories, making sure I'm getting all my nutritional bases covered. And this is right before I had actually, and this is live, I had a back injury last year that put me out for about 5 months. Funny enough, wasn't even at the gym. I also work as a performer, live performer. I was a mermaid working on a show in water, wearing a silicone tail, and I did this move, and it hurt my lower back. And so I lost a lot of those gains, and then I had to get back in that same journey that I was on from that photo that was taken about May of 2024, and then it took me all the way till now to get back to those same sort of like strong muscles. And it's a journey. Every year is something different, and it was my first big injury, and I had to learn how to move forward with it.
And you also did something that was against the norm, and definitely against what mainstream media teaches, which is that you cannot eat plant-based and also develop muscle tone. Could you address this, and why did you go plant-based?
Absolutely. I went plant-based, fully vegan, not just plant-based, but fully vegan on November of 2013. This photo right here is interesting. Mentioning my journey, it's because this one I was also very underweight, and even though I felt like I was doing the right thing, I was still having to deal with the pressure, societal pressure that we put on ourselves and other people to be thin, to be small. Especially as a woman, we're always told like you have to be small and petite and feminine, and I was definitely not at my healthiest there. So, and this is again going back to 2015, so 10 years ago. So it's just every year it's like something that I discover about myself, and also remembering that you don't have to allow the societal pressures to dictate how you can live your best, healthiest life. And regardless of your gender, regardless of your age, regardless of your profession, it's more about enjoying the journey, like I said, falling in love with the process, and knowing that there's always room for improvement without necessarily getting to succumb to those voices in the back of your head of like, you gotta be thinner, you have to be smaller, you have to do this, you have to do that, and kind of just find what works for you. Plant-based veganism works for me. 12 years ago, I made the choice to go plant-based, not just for my body, but for the animals, for the environment. And I've never looked back. I've never cheated once. I have been 100% plant-based vegan for the last 12 years. I get blood work done every 6 months. I've always had perfect blood work, never had any issues. One time I had B12. I was low on B12 and vitamin D, which I immediately was able to supplement and fix that. And yeah, it's been amazing. I 100% recommend. And I'm very happy.
You're also outdoors a lot. We must admit this, because you walk a lot as well outside. Instead of taking a bus or a car, you walk.
I try to walk as much as I can. I thankfully, where we met at our gym, it's walking distance from my home. So I get to walk every day to the gym, whether it's at 4:30 in the morning to try to make it to my 5 a.m. sometimes morning routine, or sometimes later in the morning. I love being outside and getting to, it's kind of like my warm up, part of my warm up to getting to the gym. So
Yes, Carolina and I have the same issue about driving to the gym. So, Pete, please come on and let us know, how do you think, you have a daughter right now, a small daughter, a child. How do you see Carolina's journey as being compatible with her journey or not if she goes mainstream way?
You mean if my daughter goes mainstream way, you mean?
Yes, or not. Or if she doesn't, how do
Oh.
you think Carolina would be a model for her?
Yeah, I think amazing model. So the more, let's just say, models my daughter can get. I have a daughter who's 22 or 23 now, and I remember when she was about 5, and recognizing that, you know, unfortunately at the time, she was watching sort of movies that we wouldn't be watching now, or cartoons, Jungle Book, etc. So all the role models, as Carolina mentioned, were very generally, petite and very stereotyped. So I remember thinking, right, we're going to sit down and find like pirate women, warrior women. So we researched, you know, warrior women, pirate women, and lots of women icons. So it was amazing. And one that does stick in my mind it was like brother and sister Persian. They were warriors. So, or say warriors, the woman, I can't remember the name. She was in guard or leading legions, you know, maybe 50,000 of warrior people, should I say. And then there was something I remember where the brother and sister were back to the end. So yeah, I wanted to install a bit of that. To me, it's more it was getting the balance to whatever society's conditioning we're in, as much as the general consensus, women more petite. However, you know, in terms of gender, men, you know, it could be, you know, a big thing about they got to be big. So it's interesting. So I think we find the balance of the path that we uniquely, let's just say, we uniquely choose to have and not be, let's just say, dictated by any culture, any society, or peer pressure, which is very strong in every culture. As Lisa mentioned, in terms of what she was talking about, in terms of the programming and conditioning, we are very conditioned in a certain way, and a lot of it is to our detriment and to be controlled. So I trained up until I was about 20, from 14 to about 25, and my days these days, over the last 17 years, very active through the 4 months of the festival season. So I get very trim through that time. And where I am now, we have a sauna in the garden, so I'm constantly chopping wood, carrying big pallets, throwing them on top of the roof, throwing them down, etc., etc. So I'm doing quite physical stuff as well as other stuff. So when I'm not doing the festivals, I realize, I need to just do some proactive exercise. And I keep threatening to go back into it. I might do about 3 months of training, so to speak, or implementing a little bit, but then I stop. However, we have a young man here at the moment, Mowgli, who's facilitates training. So he was helping out at the festival doing a 7 o'clock workout. So me and him are going to jump into a little bit. I'm going to let him take me through that a bit. So in relation to my daughter, I would encourage her to be very, you could say in English terms, tomboy, as I did my eldest daughter, and not to find their uniqueness, their individuality, to have a strong male father, just the proactive energy as well as the feminine. And I think it's very important for both genders to have both qualities, so they're not codependent on one another. So in terms of, as Lisa had mentioned, learning to be in love with yourself, so you can stand in love with anyone else, so you two people meeting in love, as as opposed to neediness and codependency. So that's what we will encourage our young Zola at this moment in time, who is around a certain age and is really testing the boundaries. But it's beautiful, because I personally think our children are 100% conduit. They're just energy beings of what is in our energy field. So a lot of people may not want to hear that, and what I realize is a lot of unresolved personally trauma if it's a problem. My motto is there's only solutions, no problems. So yes, that's what I would do for my daughter. That's what I did for my eldest daughter, and I would treat her just as much similar to my boys, who are quite many years older. So she's my eldest daughter is a very strong character, and Zola is a very strong character now. So in terms of my training, so I can still do lots of push-ups and pull-ups, and so I think it's very important to keep that all-roundedness in terms of with the food and what I'm putting in, and hence nearly 18 years raw, let's just say raw, vegan, plant-based, and surviving very well, not even surviving, thriving. And generally you find a lot of us go on this journey because maybe we have had some serious illnesses or setbacks in some different ways. So hence a lot of by the time I was 18, I had a lot of mercury fillings, amalgam in my mouth at about 18, and had them in for another 27 years of my life. So I would teach my daughter that. I would teach my boys very similar. Okay, she gets caught up with the prams and dolls, but still we bring in other elements. So it's about balance. I find each child might be attracted to different things, I realize. So we'd aspire to balance it out.
That's a lot of mercury to get rid of from the body. Wow, you've got a very strong liver, right? And Lisa, are you a warrior, like Pete said?
Well, I just, I think it's so interesting, just kind of what Carolina was embodying, how she's lived in her body, and the journey that she's taken from, okay, I'm going to look this way because this is what society tells me I should look like. And it's funny because I was looking at herself in the photo, and when I saw her in not just that one, but the one that you said is your favorite, like I felt the marriage of just wholeness, like fully embodied, fully connected. And you and I have talked about this, Jerry, being in your body and being in love with that experience. Like I believe we're all spirits living in a human body. And so when we practice fitness, movement, and this is something I've struggled with in my life. I've gone from over-exercising, under-eating, overeating, I've done it all. I've done many different programs. And at the root of it, and I think this is part of what I wrote, and I do have it because I think it really beautifully correlates to the conversation that we're having. When you're doing that underneath, if you're not getting to the root, if you're not getting to the love, it's going to backfire, because you're going to keep being reminded that there's lessons. And as I evolve in my journey, I just keep thinking about our ancestors. Like, look what we're carrying. Like, look at where we're heading. How lucky we are, because I would be safe in saying that we're probably further along than they ever imagined, no matter where we are. And we have an opportunity in this earth. We have an opportunity to live. We have an opportunity to heal. We have an opportunity to be love. And we can't be love until we love ourselves. And that is the root of it. And if we don't do that, we're going to have shame. And so I talk about it like it's a validation thing. You know, I'm going to validate myself through my likes. I'm going to validate myself when somebody tells me I look pretty in my dress. And while that's a temporary fix, it enslaves you to an outside source. And so when you remember, when you move your body, when you love your food that you're eating and it's nourishing you, when you love your partner and you recognize that partner's on a different path than you are, and they're going to trigger you and they're going to awaken you, but we are whole. We already are. It's just that the system is designed for us to forget that. The system is designed for us to create unrealistic expectations that have nothing to do with us and really being a human on this planet. So I'll just quickly read what we were trying to read earlier. This is called Burn Without Apology. And it was
Lisa, please don't read it quickly. We would love for you to just deeply, intimately release it to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorit. It's safe for me to be slow. So, burn without apology. You are royalty. Why eat breadcrumbs when you are gourmet? Why settle for scraps when your greatness could shatter mountains? Your words are pearls, your body a masterpiece. Yet you choose smallness, like what Carolina was talking about, while the world aches for your rising. No, child, you cannot hide behind excuses. Your wisdom comes from spirit. Your ancestors whisper, burn without apology. Live with light. They sacrificed so you could see the reflection of your beauty. Thank you.
Bravo, Lisa. Thank you so very, very much for that. I'm going to ask Carolina and Pete in that order to comment on what they just heard and how it also relates to them and their own journey of transformation.
Well, thanks for sharing, Lisa. That was beautiful. I personally can relate. I think it's sad that sometimes we are constantly bombarded with so much messaging from the outside world, whether it's media, our own family, society standards of gender and, religion, politics, all the different, influences in our world. And sometimes we succumb to those pressures, and it can really take a toll on who we truly are inside and our purpose and what's good and healthy for us. And you kind of have to tune out and really focus again on that journey. And it really, to me, makes sense that in the end, the most important thing is to find that light, that drive that, puts you back into that path of finding yourself and not worrying so much about what the world thinks of you. I used to think all the time, like, when I was too skinny, I was worried about being too skinny. When I was too muscular, I was worried about being too muscular because of how women are supposed to be and this and that. And then I realized, like, what am I doing? Why am I wasting so much time and energy thinking about this when I could just be spending it on enjoying the process, falling in love with the journey, and realizing that regardless of what I look like, I know that I'm doing something good for myself, and it's not just about the aesthetics. It's not just about how you look. It's about how you feel. Working out makes me feel happy. Eating plant-based food makes me happy. Knowing that I'm impacting the world in a way that aligns with my morals and values makes me happy. Whether or not I look the way I look, that's just, something superficial. Maybe it's a nice little cherry on top of living a healthy lifestyle. But what really, really drives me is knowing that I am living to my fullest potential, regardless of what the world has to say about me.
So thank you for that. I wanted to also invite Pete to come on and say something about that. But before we do that, I'm actually in the midst of finishing, hopefully, the editing of my book right now, which is always a never-ending task. Those of you who've written books, when you think you're finished, there's always more. They return it to you and they want more edited. So hopefully be ready in 2 weeks or maybe even less. And so one of the things in the book that I really stress a lot, and I want you all to think about this and comment on this at some point, is that food, when I'm talking about food, I'm also including what I call non-foods, things that we pretend are food, and we are bombarded constantly to eat them, to drink them, things that have nothing to do with us. For example, alcohol. What does that ever have to do with our health and well-being? What does it have to do with our hormones? What does it have to do with organ health? It has no place in our bodies. But society says if you're going to be really in and you're going to really do the thing that brings us together and that makes us easier to be with, then we need to have alcohol. And so we have developed a whole society around alcohol. Every event, must have alcohol. And there are those of us who have never done that, and we still thrive. But those who do find that the struggles are infinitely much more challenging. So I want you all to think about food and what does food constitute for you. And in the book, what I really focus on is what I think food is, which is the food that we eat. The things we eat and call food tells the story of our own personal values and our ethics. Please comment on that as well, because if you want to find out who you are or what you are, look at what you're eating and why. Are you somebody who gives your own sense of value away to the populace because you want to fit in, you want to be accepted as normal and by everyone else, or do you make your own path? We're going to start with Pete.
Okay, there's two things there in relation to the quote that Lisa read in terms of our greatness, and we are like kings and queens, emperors and empresses, and don't put up with the scraps, and we can shatter mountains. Yeah, I reiterate that quite a lot over the few years, and wanted to mention again, I forgot to say about with Carolina, in terms of the beautiful thing I've learned is the journey. So I'm so in line with you on that one, Carolina. It's about the journey, and again, over this event we had, let's just say about 10 people volunteering and stuff like that, and different things can come up for individuals. And to really be more present in the kitchen, there's a lot of peeling off layers. So a lot of stuff can come up to the surface. And again, how was I able to stay so calm, potentially where most could crack or see it as a storm, was just not really that attached to the outcome. And that takes a lot of discipline, a lot of work. So, it's only over the last, like I have mentioned before, 17 years of actually surrendering and going on this journey more fully embracing this journey, So yes, we have to remind ourselves we are royal. We are. The thing is not on the ego point. You see many people in their ego, but just to embody how divine and beautiful we are. And to connect with that. Really, it's a connection, and to feel that is beautiful. So, and again, it's so about the journey, which brings you to the now. My Whether it's a hypothesis or theory, is we can never be in the now while we've got all the unresolved traumas, or we're thinking ahead in the future, i.e., symbiotic relationship with the past. So, which we obviously can't accept being here right now in the body. So I find a lot of people, good 90% of people, are never in the now because we have so much unresolved trauma from our past. So, so the food, as you mentioned, is so important. There's so much character building that has happened over the 17 years. I actually started 43 years ago, but embodied and embraced 17 years ago. So the food was so critical. I realized it's like, whoa, my emotions were steady. So before with the foods, there was always going on. So always interference with my energy field. So it wasn't bringing a calmness. It wasn't bringing anything that was suitable for my body. So it was obviously compromising. So that was dramatic, and I've witnessed it with other people, friends, etc. Up and down, up and down. So that's one of many things that that is bombarding our energy field. So we're just energy. Remember, we're energy. And if we're consuming, especially death, that's been traumatized, and all the other atrocities, that's energy is going into our body. Unfortunately, we are disconnected from that. So, and sort of indoctrinated to not recognize that. So we think we're just very flesh and meat. So hence the reflection of eating flesh and meat. We are what we eat. So another big thing, who really wants to go into their trauma, So there's a subconscious realization that we have to face certain pain. However, there's programs that it doesn't pain, it can be truly gain, truly blossom. All my experiences, each time I would never have changed it in terms of each time we blossom. So I reiterate that to people, jump. All my situations have blossomed and would never be who I am, where I am at this moment. And coming from a very quite traumatized suburb, etc., upbringing, which I can smile about, and coming out the other end and support people in that. So food is so important. You are what you eat. What you think, i.e., it's a symbiotic relationship. So, can you change one without the other? Personally, I don't believe you can. And and how we eat, bring so much. So if we get more in line, everything we do is more divine. That rhymes, that one. More godly, goddess. So we learn how to peel away off the layers, that all the nonsense that is not us, to enable us to be in the now, so we can be the present to each other, not the literally physical present. Or if we do give presence, it's secondary. Everything's secondary. Like Carolina was saying about her body, a sculpture of her body. She recognizes she's in the body, and it's sort of secondary, but she loves that. That's her joy. That's her passion. So we find our passion, and then take note of a general balance of many things in life. Then we thrive. We thrive, and it's so amazing to be in that constant flow, without having to be shout it out. And it just is there, and you get, for me, I've just got used to it, and you can feel interference coming in where I never would have known that was interference. I would have believed that was me with the mind going 24/7 or whatever it was, and it's not now. Anyway, I'm going told to come off now.
Who's telling you that? Nobody is. So, what I wanted to find out as well, Carolina, from
Yes.
you, how do you respond to what Lisa wrote? How does that have any connection to you and to what I read to you from the book, Being Healthy?
Is this in regards to the food or?
Yes, yes, it is in regard to the food. Excellent.
Yes. Um, I think we all have a very personal relationship with food. Um, Hence why I think it can also affect people's emotions. We have a lot of attachment to tradition, to customs, to family recipes of, our grandma, famous pot pie, or our dad's, barbecuing, or our mom's famous, whatever salad. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes we might overlook what's actually beneficial for us. I don't think that, saying no to grandma's recipe just because we are no longer eating a certain type of food. In my case, for example, when I go back to my family, I'm the only vegan. And a lot of times a part of me feels bad because I don't want them to think that I'm not appreciating their food. I'm not appreciating their love that they put into the food. But I just can no longer overlook what goes on, with animal byproducts. So it's been sort of a journey of, meeting in the middle, respecting other people's choices and personal experiences with food while still being true to who I am and how I want to live my life and navigate the world and the impact that I'm having on the environment, on other animals, sentient beings, and also how it makes me feel, and I can still be there and enjoy those family moments and eat my food, eat my plant-based, and maybe introduce them to new things. I'm usually the one to also bring new recipes into a Thanksgiving dinner that are fully plant-based that people can really enjoy and fall in love with the flavor and the texture that plant-based food can offer, and showing them that you don't have to negate that emotional attachment that we have with food and flavor and certain recipes. We just need to customize a little. That's the power of having free will and being able to see something and realize just because it's tradition doesn't mean it's still good. There's a lot of things we as people, as humans, did back in the day that we now can say this is not good for us. Slavery is not good for us. Things that were even in the Bible, that, not to get too religious or political, but we have to evolve, and thankfully science and advancements in technology and ourselves as people, we've realized that there are ways to still have amazing, delicious, nutritious food in our lives without harming other sentient beings and thrive. I feel, like I said, my best. I repeat, I'm 39 years old and I'm the strongest, the most flexible, the healthiest. My skin, my hair, everything, it's glowing because I realize that I needed to fully align with what I put into my body. And I believe that a plant-based diet can really give you that. And you will never be deficient on anything as long as you learn and advocate and just be conscious of how you're relating to the world. And I think food is a major part of that, so I love being able to speak on it. I try to lead by example, right? Like, I don't just go around telling people, go vegan, be vegan, or plant-based is better, or this or that. I'm just like, proof is in the pudding, baby. Like, what do you want me to do? And I'm just happy that I can share that experience with others and say it is possible to be healthy, to thrive on a plant-based diet while still maintaining your morals and values.
So I can actually attest to the fact that she glows. In fact, she glows more in person than she does on camera.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Lisa, I'm going to ask you to come on now and follow up with that same question on food.
Yeah, it's what a great question. I pulled a card while I was listening, and it's from Gabrielle Bernstein, and you probably can't see it because of my backdrop, but it was very appropriate for our discussion today. It's my high vibe thoughts create health in my body, peace in my mind, and love in my heart. And I just thought, because I was thinking and reflecting that it's really about our frequency, right? Are we, when we're eating, or is it expanding our heart? Is it amplifying our energy? Is it connecting us to others, or is it shame, right? And many people eat or drink out of shame. They don't know, they are disconnected from their body. And so I believe that we really should, when we're loving ourselves, like you had me, Dorit, eat this one, I think it was a date off a vine. And you told me to sit with it, thank it, let it marinate in my mouth, and receive. And that date, that moment, that instruction from you, which I've heard over the time, but when you gave it to me with love, which is how you teach, it really awakened me to taking my time, not shoving it down my mouth, not celebrating that I have food, and being very mindful of what I'm putting in. Because as you know, I'm following your course. I've done my 3-day watermelon. Now I'm on grapes. And it has brought so many lessons to me. And I do believe that we cannot shame people for their choices. It's only going to increase disconnect. There's no reason to shame. I think what Carolina spoke to is embody, be the living example of, and share, like, try the recipe. You don't like it, that's okay. You don't love watermelons, that's okay. Have grapes. So thank you.
And I want to go around to each person right now because Carolina is a special guest today. What would you like Pete to say to her with 2 sentences or 3 the most of what you actually got from her being here today and what you would like to leave her with?
Wow. I was thinking I would be very proud of my daughter. I'd be very proud of my daughter to actually train with my daughter. That would be amazing. So, a great role model for women, and leave you with keep up the beautiful work.
Wait, let me show you what Carolina just did. Go ahead. And Lisa, what would you like to say to Carolina?
Thank you so much for being a guest and just awakening me to the beauty of being in your body and moving your body and celebrating your body and nourishing your body and loving yourself in the process, because those are messages that I deeply felt and see in you. And I want to thank you from literally every cell in my body and my heart. Thank you. Thank you.
Carolina, what would you like to, you have 5 minutes to really give anybody who's listening to this right now the pearls of wisdom that you would like to leave behind on earth should you leave the earth today?
Oh, wow. That's powerful. Well, before I say anything, I just wanted to say thank you again for having me. What a beautiful space. To Pete, Lisa, Dorit, thank you for speaking out and speaking about, you know, these important topics that I really feel can help people in general live a healthier, better life for themselves and others. I try to live by this motto, which is learn from the past, live in the present, and plan for the future. And I really do try to maintain that in my mind at all times. And I think this is something that everyone can take away with, is sometimes we get so caught up on what's going to happen. Oh my God. And we become anxious about the future, right? Then sometimes we get stuck in the past thinking about, oh my God, what did I do? Or I did all these things and I feel regretful. And then we get depressed. I think we get stuck sometimes on, things that just cannot be, what's done, it's done, and I think the most important thing is to just be in the present, live in the moment, and I think I do say plan for the future because it is important to, keep our eyes on the prize. But going back to what I said earlier in our talk is really falling in love with the journey, enjoying every moment of that workout, do everything you can to feel yourself in that moment and know that you deserve to be there, that you have all, if we're body able and we have our health and we have our life, because like you said, Dorit, that could end at some point. What if we're not here tomorrow? But I'm here today and I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to put my headphones on. I'm going to listen to some bangers. I'm going to really get an amazing workout and then come back home and fuel my body with all these nutrients and be thankful that I can still move and I can still, do the things that make me happy. And I think that sometimes, we get, again, caught up in the past or the future. And we forget that we have all the tools to be happy right now. What are we doing? What are we wasting our time worrying about all these other things that we cannot change? And I think that's the biggest lesson for me, because I feel like we've all gone through it. We've all become anxious. We've become depressed, and our minds are very powerful. Our brains are very powerful. And I think that really focusing on the now, as cliche as it sounds, I think it's one of the key elements of being able to do this every day, and for me, falling in love with the journey and falling in love with the process has become my biggest therapy when it comes to mental health, when it comes to just feeling confident. I think when you stick with a routine, when you're doing something good for yourself, that confidence that comes about will help you in every direction of your life, personal, romantic, professional, and you can really, make a big impact, and people can see that because whether you're glowing physically or just emotionally, I think that attracts positivity. You're radiating, your radiance, it's really going to have that impact on other people. And I try to live like that every day as much as I can, and not let the negativity and the hatred of the world get me down. And, when I go, maybe this is a great thing to attach to the story, is when Dorit and I met at the gym. It was like we connected, I saw her big smile and she looked at me, I looked at her, and we immediately knew this is something good. Let's meet, let's talk. And even if it's just a brief moment in our lives, it's still something beautiful. I love being able to go to the gym and have women come up to me and be like, oh my God, you're so inspirational. What are you doing? I love that you're so strong, or I love that you're so flexible. I saw you doing flips or doing that, because I love doing yoga as well. And I love that I can inspire people to really break out of that shell and not worry too much about what the world thinks of you, rather focus on what you think of yourself.
This is wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you were here with us, Carolina. It was truly our pleasure. Truly, truly a pleasure. And I trust that people will leave this live stream and realize that the whole world is your oyster. Until next week, tune in again. Thanks, Carolina.